What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shooky from Shook Earth Media, and today we are back with The Last of Us. This is the 8th episode. We got a brutal episode that gave me a lot of the action that I've been wanting from the show up to this point. So it was a very satisfying episode for me, a terrifying episode. It's got some really brutal scenes, and I'm overall very happy about it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And just to let you guys know, we're going to be live streaming my review for the final episode of this season next week. So definitely stay subbed and turn on those notifications so you get notified when I go live right after the episode next week. Really looking forward to the season finale. But with that, let's just start breaking down this episode. So this is a brutal episode, and I really love that we start off with just setting up this villain character who seems innocuous at first, and then of course it's a Trojan horse for a truly violent, depraved man. And I really love the acting here, and the writing is really good. It's really well paced. There's a lot of really great stuff in this episode. There's some nitpicks, of course, as always. It's your boy Shooky, so you already know there's going to be some nitpicking involved in this review. But overall, it gets high marks for me. So whereas the previous episode was pretty much my least favorite episode of the series so far, I think this episode probably takes the top spot for me. It's really got that brutal energy that I've been wanting to see, and it really just shows how depraved this world can be. So this character here, this preacher character, I will just say right off the bat that in apocalyptic fiction, having a religious villain is a bit of a cliche at this point. It is faithful to the source material. This is a very faithful episode. I think it's pretty much, it feels like one for one. They added some stuff, and I think it's good stuff that they added. So I'm really overall satisfied with this. But I will just say overall, the religious villain thing, it's definitely a cliche, and I get that a lot of people use religion to do bad things. And I think that's what this is a commentary on. Like the guy reveals towards the end of the episode, he doesn't even really believe. So he's using these beliefs to gain power and control, which is something that is very real, and false prophets are warned about in the Bible itself. So, depending on what your feeling is on religion, you may take some offense to, oh, it might just be religion bad, and based on some of the messaging in previous episodes, I don't think we're working with religious writers and whatnot. But you know what? I think, like, even from a biblical point of view, that this story makes a lot of sense. But we're starting off with him reading from the book of Revelation. And that's, of course, kind of the apocalyptic vision of the Bible with the plagues coming to earth and Jesus returning for the second coming. And of course, that's very much applicable to the apocalypse, and there's a lot of crossover. A lot of people can relate to it. So, I think having that as the basis makes a lot of sense. And they set up in this scene that somebody died in this community, and it turns out that it was the guy that Joel killed at the college where Joel was hurt. And I think that that's a great element, bringing in the consequences for your actions. This will become a recurring theme, especially in season 2, which I probably won't be watching, to be honest. But they're setting up, they've done a lot to set up season 2 in the show already. So if you know what's coming, you can see the seeds being planted here. But I like how he's shaking hands with people the same way a priest does. If you don't go to church, you don't know. But preachers and priests, they pretty much stand outside, shaking people's hands, and it's just giving that sense of community and making him feel like the leader. So, and they're really making, I think this is kind of targeted at people who've had some experience with religion, and, the way he's smiling, you're supposed to, I think, feel positively about what he's doing here. I mean, especially because he, kind of said nice things to the person who's grieving, and he's saying, like, we'll get through this, having that hopeful energy. But then you get the scene with the preacher and his number 2 guy, who is actually the original voice actor for Joel. The actor, this is Troy Baker. He played Joel in the original game. And of course, you might recognize the voice if you've played the games before. But I think he killed it in this episode. And I'm really glad that he was included in the show and given a role that was a significant role. And it's just really great to see him in the show. So if you're a fan of the original game, this episode is, if you're a fan of the original game, you're going to love this episode, I think. So, I know I certainly did. But I like setting up, there's a little bit of iciness between them, because he's starting to see that the doubt is starting to come up in his number 2 guy, and they are running out of food and things are getting desperate. So but he says he still believes, and they're going to go out hunting. So that's the start of the episode, and I think it's a good start. I think it sets a lot of foundation for the rest of the episode. Okay, and we're back here with Joel and Ellie, and Ellie is trying to take care of Joel. Joel seems like he's slipping away, and she knows she has to go out hunting. She's got to bring food out. And, in the original game, we kind of just smash cut to winter, and we had a close-up on a rabbit, and there's an arrow that was shot out and kills the rabbit right away. So it gets that brutal energy. I kind of wish we had that. I kind of liked her with the bow. If you're a fan of the game, you're like, oh, where's the bow? But I get why they have the rifle, because they want it to make the sound so that people nearby hear that she shot the deer. And it makes a lot more sense to have the gun. But visually, aesthetically, I kind of miss it, having the bow and arrow. And I was really hoping to see the shot with the rabbit where she shoots the rabbit, because there's a very famous meme of somebody playing the game, and it's a girl, and she's like, "That's the cutest thing I've seen in my life," and then it gets killed. Oh, very funny meme. But yes, I love this hunting scene, and we take that second to bring out the silence. You hear the breathing of the animal, the breathing of Ellie, and just having that atmosphere. I kind of wish this show was a little bit less crammed into one episode, just so we could get more atmospheric moments like that, because I really love that atmospheric stuff. And especially like early Walking Dead episodes had a lot of that same energy, just letting the sounds of the environment take up the space in the audio, and not just having constant dialogue and music and all that. But that's it's a small nitpick at the end of the day. So we're now fighting. There's a standoff over the deer. So the guys find the deer, the preacher David and James. They find the deer. Of course, David and James are biblical names, a little subtle touch that I think was smart. But that's in the original source material as well. But yeah, I like this uneasy standoff. And she wants medicine. She's willing to trade the deer for medicine. And he runs off. Now, of course, this guy, we know by the end of the episode, he's like this violent piece of shit guy, right? But really, he is in the moment kind of doing the same thing that Joel does, that Ellie's doing right now, trying to protect the ones that they care about. And I actually like, we'll get into later in the episode, some of the ideas that make them a bit more sympathetic, the villains in this part. So, I think that makes a lot of sense. So they have, Joel, or James, said Joel because he's the original voice actor, run off to get the medicine. And I'm liking the energy that Ellie's bringing in this scene. She really does seem like somebody who would pull the trigger, because she is that person at this point. She's not to be trusted. So she has him drag the deer over to this building here. And now we get to know the guy a little bit. He talks about how he didn't believe before the apocalypse, and by the end of the episode, we know he doesn't believe now. But he got to religion after the fall. Now, one interesting thought that I had is, watching The Walking Dead and all these apocalyptic fiction and whatnot, one thing that I don't think is depicted enough is the fact that in a desperate situation like that, it sounds counterintuitive, but more people would actually turn to religion as a result of being in such a desperate situation. There is the old adage that there's no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole, and that is just, when you're desperate, you're willing to call out to anything. And a lot of people, myself included, return to faith because of desperate situation. So I actually like seeing it depicted in it's kind of in a negative way in this episode, but I think that showing that people return to religion in desperate times makes a lot of sense, and the fact that this guy was using that desire and exploiting it for his own personal gain, I think it's actually, it does have a positive message if you take it the right way. So I thought this scene was really good, and I think they really paced it out well with, at this point, if I knew the source material going in, I know he's the villain. But I think that there's enough ambiguity in this moment that it makes it makes for interesting drama. But also, as a fan of the game, and just as a fan of zombie fiction, one of my big complaints with the show overall is not enough zombies in my zombie show. I wanted a zombie fight here because in the game, there's zombies that come, and of course that's because we need combat for gameplay. But even story-wise, I think it creates this uneasy alliance, and the fact that Ellie has to consider letting this guy arm himself so that he can help take out the zombies, and it just makes for an interesting setup. So I really do, I think I would have preferred to actually have a zombie fight here. I know there's a lot in this episode, but it's HBO, it's premium cable, it's streaming. They can make it go more than an hour if they wanted to. So they can make the episodes a little bit longer. I understand they have limitations with the budget and stuff, but I said my piece, we'll move on. So we're back here in this house, and I pointed out last week that the way that this house is laid out makes absolutely no sense, because I still don't understand why Ellie would go through the trouble. She really does leave the house by going up the stairs. So that implies to me that Ellie got to this house and then decided for some reason Joel needs to be in the basement, which would probably be the coldest place in the house. Just my experience of being in basements, they tend to be cold, okay? And the concrete makes it even colder. This is a guy who's dying. He needs to not be cold as much as possible. Why would she go through the effort of dragging him down here step by step? Like, what other way is there into this? We've established in this episode the only way into this room is to come down the stairs. It makes no sense at all, and it really drives me nuts. It's a nitpick, but it's really stupid. Okay, so I said my piece about that. She gets the medicine. She gives him the medicine, and then she has an intimate moment with Joel. I really like this touch too, and feeling the breathing and stuff. The only thing is, they could have made it even more intimate, because logically speaking, she should be concerned about him losing body heat, and it makes sense in that time to get in the blanket with him. That's actually something that they teach you to do in Boy Scouts. Like, if somebody has hypothermia or something like that, you actually should cuddle up with them, as weird as that sounds. So it's they could have gone further with it, is what I'm saying. So we're back here in the cabin where they have their meals. It's a former steakhouse, and it's a very faithful recreation of the game setting, so I love the way it looks. And here we have the ambiguity about the meat. There's meat that is brought in, and then it's elk, I swear, or it's venison, or whatever they said. So that element, of course, is very important to this part. And they have, I would say though, do you really drop? I don't know cooking as well. I do cook a little bit, but I don't eat meat, so. But do you really drop raw meat in the broth? Wouldn't you cook it and then drop it in? I get it's a little grosser. Maybe that's what they're going for. It just felt a little much for me. But one element I think that they added that was smart is, they had people that died in their community, and they're running out of food. Now, it really does make sense. I mean, as fucked up as it is, if the people died anyway, and you are that desperate, there's an argument for it, ethically speaking. I mean, it's fucked up, and nobody wants to do that. It's disgusting. But I think there's an ethical argument that, like, you shouldn't let it go to waste when it could help potentially save us from starvation. So, I like that element again of bringing a little bit of sympatheticness to the group here. So now we get David comes back to the group and informs them that they found the guy who killed the person that they lost, and they bring the elk back, and they say they're going to go track down Ellie in the morning. Now, I like that dilemma. I like having another standoff, but part of me feels like, I know they had to have Ellie go back and give Joel the medicine for this next scene to work, but I still think it would have worked better in the original game, in the original way it was written, which was they have that standoff at the cabin, they have the zombies they have to kill, and then they kidnap Ellie, and then there's some time that passes, and Joel kind of gets better on his own. They wanted to add the medicine element, which, I guess makes more logical sense, but at the same time, they could have just had a bit more time We got Ellie in that cage, and it feels like she's in that cage for like like an hour, and it doesn't have as much impact. Whereas if you let it stretch out a little longer, and that's one little nitpick that I have. I think it would have made more sense, if they just took Ellie right away. But here we got a scene where they're trying to make this guy more sinister, and this is when you know that he's a villain for sure. And I don't think you needed this. I think they could have kept up the gambit of, is he bad or not, a little bit longer. They have her smack this girl in the face for questioning him, I guess, or it's kind of like interrupting him. And I get that he's this power hungry guy, but I don't know that with the religion thing that he has ruled by force like this. At least we haven't seen evidence of that. So it's very unnecessary. I don't think we needed the slap thing, like, especially because now that we know he's a piece of shit, it's like the ambiguity's gone, the suspense is a little bit less. I don't know, maybe it adds suspense for some people, but I didn't really like that element. But yeah, having the girl eat her own father, I'm assuming, is what is happening, because they didn't bury the body, like they said in the first scene. They didn't bury the body yet, so I'm assuming that's what they're eating, and that's gross. And they really get the close-ups of the bowls, them scraping the bowls, and of course, I already knew they were cannibals and stuff, so I think that part of the scene was good. So here we have Joel seemingly not really getting better. She gives him more medicine. And then we have the showdown. And this is where this is like the worst scene in the episode. One, they have Joel get better pretty much immediately just because the plot needs him to get better. That's why I think, having a little bit more time in between these things happening would have made it make a bit more sense. But Ellie sees the people coming because of birds flying over, which, that makes sense. But, like, if I was Ellie, I would have been concerned about them following me right away. I wouldn't be looking outside. I wouldn't be going out the window, at least without checking the perimeter. She's, like, completely not worried about anything. She's just out in the open. And I would have been like, oh, we got to keep moving. We got to make sure we cover our tracks. Like, these are things she should have been thinking about. And I guess she's a kid, but they had her thinking about these things in the original game. And I think she was younger in the original game. So, I don't know. That part was a bit annoying to me, that she's just like, oh, I'm out in the open. This because there's definitely nothing I need to hide from. There's even without these guys coming, there's zombies, there's other people, there's like even predators and stuff. Like, you wouldn't just be, oh, I'm here, I'm out in the open, hello everybody, hello, I would be trying to stay behind cover at all times. Like, I wouldn't want to be exposed ever unless I felt safe in the area that I was at. But you got these guys coming in and they're looking for revenge. They're gonna get Joel. And I like this element, and we got a little bit of friction in the group about what to do with the girl. And by the end of the episode, we know what David really wants. And, that's in the source material as well, that he's looking for a bride, as fucking gross as that is. And again, adding in, another sinister element to his character, that he's feeling that he wants that from a kid. It's really disturbing stuff. So, I think that's, a great element there. That's a great little scene there. Then Ellie gives Joel a knife and then leaves. And like I said, he instantly gets better just because the plot needs him to. I get, he feels the danger. He feels like he needs to go get her. Maybe that motivation is enough. You hear stories about, oh, a mother has her son or daughter in danger and she lifts a car or whatever. You've heard those stories. It does happen, so you can buy into it from that point of view. But, it's I can nitpick about it, So here she just like rides out and she's like, hey guys, you're all armed with guns. Start shooting me now, please. And I'm guessing that the thought process is she wants to lead them away so they don't find Joel. But she just fucking confirmed that Joel is definitely here. Like, with 100% certainty. It's the stupidest plan. It's the dumbest part of the episode. Takes me completely out of it. She would have been better off opening fire right now. She would have been, instead of yelling at them and then opening fire, just fucking shoot one. At least, and then hide behind cover. Don't be like all exposed. It's so dumb. And then when the horse finally gets shot, I'm like, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Like, it was very frustrating to watch this scene. So I'm pretty sure everybody agrees with that, right? I mean, that's kind of hard to not nitpick that scene. So this is the worst scene in the episode. But once we get past that scene, the rest of the episode is phenomenal. Love the rest of this episode. So we're going to break into it. Of course, Ellie tried to hide the one entrance into the room so that Joel might have a shot. Of course, we already talked about why it's stupid that he's in the basement to begin with. But okay, fine. Okay, fine. She hid him behind a thing, and this guy notices right away because of course he would. Now, I thought they were going to go with the classic, he sees the marks on the floor where she dragged it. But instead, he sees behind it. I think it would have been better if he saw the trail on the ground. But that's whatever, because you would have seen, like, this is a dirty place. You would have seen displaced dirt and debris, etc. But you know what? Whatever. Nitpick at the end of the day. Then we get a brutal scene, and this is where we finally get to see the Joel that we know is actually Joel. And they got a brutal kill here, and it's very, very in your face with the violence. Like, he dies, you're looking at him as it happens. And this is a scene, where you get to see how far Joel is willing to go. This episode is supposed to have two functions. One is to show how far Joel is willing to go, and we'll get to that in this scene coming up. And two is you need to show that Ellie can survive on her own. Joel is coming after her. You think he's going to save her. You expect he's going to save her because that's what he's been doing this whole time. But Ellie has the strength to save herself in this particular portion. And that's what this winter portion of the game is supposed to do. And now I complained in the last episode that they didn't show any combat stuff. But it makes sense given that the function of this episode is to show that Ellie can survive on her own. I still would have liked to see some hiding stuff in the previous episode. But showing Ellie take out enemies in the previous episode would have undercut the ending of this one. So I can understand that. Retrospectively, I retract my previous complaint. But now we get Ellie in the cage, and this is amazing scene. Great acting. Bella did really good. I don't know this actor's name, but phenomenal, dude. Like, perfect scene. The tension in the scene is great. It would have been even more ambiguous, I think, if they preserved they didn't have him slap the girl in the previous scene. But with that, that he's sinister at this point, so you're more on Ellie's side when she's openly just aggressive against him right away. So, she knows something's up, and I love the tension here. He's like, I'm gonna help you, etc. She doesn't believe him, and all that. So this guy's looking for the guy that Joel just killed, and he finds another body. Presumably, this other body is somebody who, we don't get a good look at him, but I'm assuming that Joel killed this guy off screen, and then he butts this guy over the head, and we get a torture scene. And this is a scene straight out of the game, very, very faithfully delivered, and this is the brutal energy that we need to see. This is how far Joel is willing to go. This needs to be established right now, that he loves her, and he loves Ellie, and this is the dark side of love. The dark side of love is that you will do anything to protect these people. So I love this scene. He tortures this guy and gets him to point on the map. He puts the knife in the guy's mouth, and it's a brutal in-your-face scene. It's perfect. I thought it was great. And then we bring back the element where in an earlier scene a few episodes ago, he's like, you got to point to a place on the map, and then I'm going to ask your buddy. It better be the same place that he points to. And then you see Joel just kills him right away because he believes him. That's straight from the source material. And I think it's really brilliant to show that, he feels he can't let them live because they're never going to give up coming after them. So it's not in his interest to let these people live, and he can't just leave them tied up because they'll probably find a way to escape. So he kills them in a brutal way. And here we got another scene with Ellie in the cage, and this is where the dam breaks and everything goes insane. This is where, we see the ear and we know that they're cannibals now. We know that the meat that they were eating a few scenes ago is definitely human meat, and that pretty much the gambit is up at this point. But he kind of says, only few people know. And like I said earlier, in a certain situation, you can make an argument ethically for it. So I like that ambiguity. And that's what The Last of Us, that's what these apocalyptic stories are about, is when circumstances change, morality changes with it. And, I think exploring that is what makes these so interesting, these shows. So, or at least to me. I don't know if they're interesting to everybody, but they're interesting to me. And I love, the tension here. I forgot to mention that I really like in this scene how David brings up the fact that the cordyceps are kind of neutral morally, and that they're only considered about reproducing and multiplying, kind of tying in the moral ambiguity, how these guys are just doing what it takes to survive, and Joel and Ellie are doing the same thing. So bringing up that theme about the moral ambiguity of the apocalypse brought about by the cordyceps, and I like bringing that in to reveal that the guy is not actually religious. I think that makes a lot of sense, so I just wanted to add that thought in here. And he puts his hand on the cage, and he's got this creepy, touchy-feely thing going on, and then Ellie attacks him. Now, the only thing with the logistics of this is kind of dumb, because she has her hand under his and then puts her other hand over it, and then she breaks his finger, or she hurts his finger, but she's hurting herself in the process. I don't know if that's maybe supposed to be symbolic, that she is... that by committing acts of violence, she is also hurting herself. This is a theme that recurs in season 2 as well. Maybe that's what they're going for, but it just seems like, why would you do that? I don't know. It seems like you're hurting yourself for no reason, but she has an opportunity to attack. He attacks her back, and now he's like, that's it, we're done. And she screams out that I'm the guy who I'm the girl who hurt your fucking finger. She finally gives up her name right then, and I love it. It was a perfect scene, brutal, disturbing scene, and now we got Joel limping along, and he is on his way, and he discovers the backpack, and he finds the dead bodies hanging, and the horse hanging. So now we know we see the cannibalism, and it's brutal. It's disturbing to look at. And it's very, like I said, it's extremely faithful to the source material. It's like 1-for-1 from the halfway point of the episode on. It's like they don't really change much at all, and they didn't have to because it's so good. Like, they don't really need to change too much. So they're about to chop her up, and then she says she's infected. Makes perfect sense, and of course they have to check that, and it's like The Walking Dead, tainted meat. And he puts the butcher knife right next to her head in a way that was kind of intimidating. The only thing is, that's kind of dumb to do, right? And she attacks him with it. So, I don't know. That is in the original game, too. So, that's, something I would, I suppose, criticize the original for as well. But it seems like really short-sighted to do that. Especially because he acknowledges that she has a violent heart. And he says that he had a violent heart, too. So, he should know that she's going to do that. So yeah, but anyways, it's a small nitpick at the end of the day, but it leads to a brutal kill where she kills Joel from the video game. And I thought that the kill was absolutely brutal. You can see it in the small little corner. I was trying to get it up on screen, but we're just going to move on. Now we're in this stalker scene. And I was looking at how much time was left in the episode, and I was like, oh, I wish this last bit was a little bit longer, because we could have gotten stages to this final showdown. But maybe that would have been too drawn out and annoying. So I don't know. Part of me thinks you could have had a little bit more suspense here, but maybe not. I don't know. It was a very well done scene. Of course, Ellie has something that is burning to use as a weapon. But I like the element. It would have been smarter for her to wait for him to come around and then stab him with it, right? Or to attack him in some way with it. Instead, she throws it. That shows a sense of impatience and an impulsiveness, I think, that is going to be important for her character going forward into season 2. So I think that that makes sense, but you know, you might on the surface level you might be like, why did she do that? That's really stupid. Maybe now I'm thinking about that, the impulsiveness. Maybe that's why they did the horse riding scene earlier. But the horse riding scene with her shooting is way dumber than her throwing the thing. So you know, I can give the throwing the burning thing a pass, especially because you know the aesthetics of the place burning up is just so cool. You know, you get the fire and brimstone type of stuff. So I love the showdown, you know, and that at this point, it's his goal is not to kill her, which makes it even scarier. You know, it makes it more intense. The fact that you know and the acting is ridiculously good in this part. And again, I would have thought that he would have the presence of mind to get the butcher knife away from her, that she couldn't reach it, or at least notice that she was reaching for it. But I'm kind of nitpicking with that because you know he's in the animal mind, he's in the id, he's not thinking logically, so that makes sense. And then we got you know a brutal kill, the most brutal kill in the episode they give to Ellie, and I don't remember if it was quite this intense originally, but it really makes sense, especially given where they're going with the show in season 2, to show this brutality here and just like the breaking of the soul, basically, of the at this moment. You know, she's in a way kind of killing her old self at this moment, and like the blood spatter on the face. It's kind of like symbolic of you know like you know we've talked about periods in this show. It's kind of like that first blood, you know, and that's a theme you see in a lot of literature. I remember like BioShock Infinite, the girl Elizabeth, she has a first kill in that, and then after that first blood, she's like a lot more adult looking. She's a lot more mature, and she shows wears more revealing clothes, etc. So this is like that moment for Ellie, the first blood. So you know, I think that symbolism is really good, is what I'm getting at. It packs a lot in, a lot of meaning from that's the thing with like literature and storytelling, is you can pack in a lot in a little thing. So you might think I'm reading into it. I'm really not. So then we have the reunion moment where you know Joel comes up behind her and she thinks it's somebody else attacking her. And I mean, the acting here is crazy too, because like you see her go from lizard brain plus trauma plus shock to love and like, you know, kind of a relief a little bit. So like, and there's so much in her eyes, dude. Like I was really skeptical of her, and you know maybe I still kind of have some critiques of her performance, but bro, in this episode, dude, next level shit in my opinion. So really good. And then we get this embrace here, and this embrace, where we're showing it from Joel's perspective, is framed in the same way as Sarah in the first episode after she died. So that's symbolic, definitely coming full circle, where this is like she died. Again, it's another thing where her old self died in this moment, and she has become somebody new. And in a way, that was you know, symbolically that was when the watch was broken. Which is why you see the watch here in this shot as well, because time stopped for Joel at that moment. It's a very obvious symbol. So bringing it full circle to have time stop for Ellie in a similar way, it's just brilliant. It's genius. And having them walk off into the distance, you know, I don't know where they're going, why they're going towards there, but you know, that's a nitpick at the end of the day. Like, they're walking to the water. I don't understand that. But anyways, it was really good, really brutal. A lot of symbolism at the end there. And I think that the villains in this episode are very intimidating, and this was the best episode of the show overall. So I'm very satisfied with this. And I'm excited for the finale next week. Remember, live streaming the review next week, so I hope to see you there. And if not, we'll definitely be clipping it, so it'll be released as a video as well. So I hope to see you guys in the chat. That'll be a lot of fun. And definitely leave your comments in the comment section down below. And hit the like if you like. That really helps out with the channel. So, and sub for more if you haven't yet. So with that, with all the mandatory YouTube plugs thrown in there, I'm happy with this episode, so don't give me a thumbs down, please. You got too many thumbs down last week. People didn't agree. But that's okay. You know, we can disagree. It's fine. I'm not mad, I swear. But with that, it's been your boy Shuggy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.